After what seemed like an eternity, Masked Singer Australia is finally back, and although I don't watch it, I still follow it, so I can comment on this upcoming lineup of costumes, which vary from very good to what were they thinking. Now, I am mainly doing this video because, yeah, all the masks for the American version have not been released yet fully. I think that we're waiting on a few more that I think are going to be released tonight as I'm filming this, because as I'm filming this later tonight is going to be the big that big like sneak peek. So anyways, in that meantime, I figured might as well fill up that space where we could talk about another version of Masked Singer. So anyways, let's get on with the list. I'd also like to reiterate that I'm doing this this first impression video. Moving forward, I will be doing these kind of like how I did with season 5, where instead of just going like alphabetically, like mask by mask, and talking about like each one, I'm just gonna rank them, because that makes it easier for me to just kind of get all my thoughts out there. So starting with number 12 is Duster, and this is probably the worst looking costume I've ever seen on the Australian version of the show. Usually the concept and aesthetic of a stringy and tassel-like costume has worked out well before, with like whatchamacallit from the US version and Car Wash from Masked Dancer UK, but this costume is just beyond weird. First of all, why a duster? Are they already running out of ideas? And the handle of it sort of resembles a plunger. As a matter of fact, before this costume was fully unveiled, the title of the Wiki fandom page gave this mask was Toilet Brush, so I knew from then on that this is going to be a crappy costume, pun intended. Now, from here on, the costumes really aren't that bad. For me, this baby is just sorta meh. It looks a little bland and more weird than creepy, which the latter I feel is what they were trying to go with this one. The head of this costume just looks very large and heavy. It almost reminds me of a parade balloon you'd see on Thanksgiving. But what probably ruined this mask for me, honestly, was the reveal of the baby mask for the American version of Masked Singer, which in my opinion is leagues better than this one. So I've never actually heard of Pavlova before. Tell me if I'm not saying it right. I think that's how I say Pavlova, right? I'm guessing it's a dessert common in the Australia-Oceania area of the world, considering there was also a Pavlova mask on the New Zealand Masked Singer. Now, I'm just not that crazy about this mask. I think I do prefer the one we saw in New Zealand. And don't get me wrong, this is still a well-made costume. It just doesn't speak out to me like the rest of the costumes do. One confusing thing I encountered when researching these costumes is the difference in culture in regards to slang and such. Like, in America, I think this would just be a doll, unless I'm just missing the mark and this is something completely different altogether. But this does look like a doll costume, essentially, and I have a very complicated feeling about this costume. It's a very great-looking costume, and the only thing that sort of looks weird is the dress, because it's so big and billowy, but it's unique and cool at the same time. What brings this mask down so many pegs for me, however, is that because there's already a baby mask on this season, this costume just seems too unoriginal. The baby is obviously going to get more attention, and this doll is a baby doll, so yeah, it just seems sort of redundant. One thing that the Australian version of this show is really good at is making breathtaking costumes that look absolutely stunning, and although Atlantis does fit under this description, there are other more artsy looking costumes that are much better than this in my opinion. I'm assuming Atlantis is supposed to be some sort of coral reef, maybe a sea anemone, but newsflash, that's not what Atlantis is. Maybe once again this is just a colloquial name for this costume and I'm simply lost in translation, but for now, there are just some things about this mask as a whole that I can't get past. This just may be one of the best ideas for a mask I've seen yet, and I shame the US version for not beating the land down under to the punch on this one. And this mask looks perfect, just how I would have envisioned a Piñata mask to look. The attention to detail is so great that I actually question the structural integrity of this costume. With all that in mind, however, there were several other costumes that struck my fancy more than this one. Another very unique and original idea, this vampire is what I meant when I said that there were other artsy masks cooler than Atlantis. This costume is freaky, like something out of a Tim Burton movie freaky. The one thing I am curious about is why her neck is so long. Maybe it's gonna be Jeffrey the Giraffe from Toys R Us behind the mask. But seriously, everything about this mask is done perfectly. From the splatters of blood all over to the dress to the gaunt and terrifying horrifying face. And this mask is the other reason why I said that there are cooler masks than Atlantis. Lightning is just such a bizarre idea for this show, because it seems like it would be pretty hard to execute a lightning mask, but if done right, would be pretty awesome. And I think they nailed it with the electric blue robotic aesthetic. It almost sort of reminds me of the robot from Metropolis. Once again, I am confused by the name of a mask. You see, when Americans hear kebab, they think of various meats and vegetables that are grilled and served on a skewer, but this kebab looks more like a sandwich, almost akin to a gyro. I'm guessing this is an Australian thing like the Pavlova was, and I really like how more and more this version of the show is having costumes that are more symbolic to their culture. And this mask is awesome. Its attention to detail with the food, specifically the veggies, is spot on. And I love the face, even though it's a simpler design. I can sort of tell that maybe they got some inspiration for this mask, maybe from Masked Singer UK's Sausage, just going off of like the newspaper that had printing, and there's printing on the wrapper. It's a very cool mask. This mask is hilarious, but in a refined way, not like how Duster was. Now, I'm assuming that Mullet is a kind of fish, but this costume happens to have a mullet as well, so who knows really. I can tell already this is going to be a fun costume to watch, and although I don't have faith that he'll go very far, this is going to be one of the best masks of this season, at least from a visual standpoint. The Volcano is just awesome. I never thought of the idea of a volcano mask before, but then when I heard that there was going to be one on Masked Singer Australia 3, I knew it was going to look just so cool. And it does. Every single part of this mask executes on the two most important parts of any costume. A, to make it actually look like, you know, what it is, and B, to make it look cool in other ways as well. And Volcano does just that. They perfectly conveyed the wideness of a volcano with the cape, and had other parts, you know, some parts conveying the molten rock, some parts conveying the lava, but then they added other cool features like its fiery six-pack and an open-mouthed smile that sort of reminds me of those tiki masks. Simply put, this Volcano is one to watch. But with that being said, Professor is the best mask of the season when it comes to the costumes. They were playing with fire when they planned to make a personified costume, but they kept it to the right track and killed it with this one. They portrayed him as a sort of robot scientist, from the white mustache and frizzy hair to classic white lab coat commonly associated with scientists. But I think the detail with Professor that really makes it for me is his undershirt and the inside of his coat display a periodic table, which I hope has actual elements depicted on it, but it is hard to tell from just the picture. And there we go! That is how I feel about each of the masks that will be competing on Masked Singer Australia 3. Unfortunately, I won't really be able to see all that much of it. I'll probably really only get to see just like who goes home and who is that. I'll try to catch... I'll probably be able to see the performances. Those two. I mean, that's got to be pretty important. I'll probably just track it the same way I tracked Masked Singer UK as well. So yeah, that's I don't know how I would put this spread of masks as compared to the first two seasons. I guess I would say that they're pretty even keel at this point. All 3 seasons had a couple of masks that were just like eh. And then, you know, good mask. I guess I'd say probably the best season so far would be season 1 when it comes, at least of the Australian version, when it comes to, like, the masks. But yeah, so there's that, but now I gotta focus on Masked Singer US, because that's obviously the one that I watch, primarily. And I'm really excited about that. I will try to get out a first impressions video of those masks as soon as I can, but I haven't even started to work on that script yet, because I don't know all the masks yet. But until then, like, comment, subscribe, and I will see you later.